Here we go. This is the Btonez podcast, and we back for another daggone episode. This is episode 16, and we about to do it again. Because every time you come to my channel, the one thing you're going to get is a good word. We just sitting here vibing backstage, and I'm like, man, we ain't cut the camera on. We need to go ahead and do that so we can talk a little bit about the week's blessings, a little bit about the victories, what we got going on. And today I don't even want to just label what the episode is going to be, because we're going to talk a little bit about everything. We'll talk about overcoming. We're going to talk about resilience. We're going to talk about having gratitude. All these things wrapped up into one is what make this channel what it is. And I thank you for supporting me. Thank you for following me. And if you do like this content, go ahead and like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Also, leave comments in the comment section, because if there's feedback that I can get, any way I can get better or answer questions you may have, or maybe have some topics that you want to hear about. I got a plethora of friends and associates who are knowledgeable in so many areas and aspects of life, and they are very interesting people, and they all come onto this platform so that they can have their voices heard. And essentially, that's what I'm here for. I play kind of like the role of a late night talk show host. I sit down and I'm uninteresting, but the people I bring in are very interesting. And what we're going to do today is going to be no different. A brother with me today I've known just a little bit of time, I would say. I'll let him tell you how long I've known him, but I'm going to have him introduce himself. Then we're going to jump into the conversation and let this thing flow organically as it always does. What's going on, Brent? Talk to me, man.
Hey, what's going on, Brad? And thank you for having me on your podcast. So my name is Brent. I've known Brad since the third grade. That's how far back we go. And it's been a long journey, a long road that we both taken get us to this point. Never in, I know, my wildest dreams that I think that I would actually be doing this. And I'm pretty sure Brad could say the same, just considering, where we both have been. So, just glad to be here and glad to share this platform and to chop it up and at the end just glorify God, man. That's what we're here for.
As you said, man, we go way back. Elementary school, Super Nintendo. The thing I want to deal with today, man, I'm kind of thinking about the events of the past week, all the places I've been, and the current blessings that are now happening to my life. And one thing that I find pretty common is the fact that when your blessings come, you always have to be in a position to receive them. And usually a lot of the blessings that we want to have and we want to acquire, we think we're ready now, but we're not quite. It takes a perspective and a spirit of gratitude and humility in order to accept that which is bigger and that which is greater. Because if you get it too soon, it might destroy you. If you get it too soon, you might lose your way with it. And God, who is all powerful and all knowing, knows exactly when to deliver his promised blessings to you. You just got to trust him, and you got to keep him before you and always seek his kingdom. And when you do that, you never know what to expect. Because one thing I always say is God definitely knows how to surprise us. He definitely knows how to take us off guard. So I'll start with myself, man. I just received a promotion at my job about a week ago. And I've been going through all the paperwork and all the rigmarole trying to get, the onboarding process done and squared away. And during that time, I had several coworkers who I never thought would have said the types of things that they had said, but they reached out, of course, in congratulations, which is cordial. This is what you do. Somebody got a promotion, you congratulate them. But they went the extra mile to say words of encouragement that really touched me. I had no idea that they felt that way. And in turn, I started giving them exactly what they gave me. It was like knee-jerk reaction. It's like, I don't want to sit here and just receive. You have the ability, and you can and will do marvelous things as well. There is opportunity yet at your door. So just remain open. Make sure you're developing yourself in the interim. Make sure you're building yourself in the interim. And those blessings soon will come just like that. And in the workspace, that's not often talked about or done, maybe between colleagues on a one-on-one basis. But I know my man Brent had a wonderful blessing at his job where he found like a whole community of believers just recently that changed his mind. I want him to talk about that just a little bit, if he cares to, just talk about what he has seen at his current job that he really don't see too many other places.
I would probably say maybe 6 months ago, there was a email that went out regarding a Christian prayer call. I was like, okay. As soon as I signed up for it, I got the weekly invite. I was like, oh, okay, this isn't a one-time thing. And, from that point on, I made it a point to attend. Folks coming together, have a song, take prayer requests, give testimonies, and then somebody prays, or, if multiple people want to pray, they would do that. And that was it in about a half an hour. Just over time, I've just been so encouraged by some of either the testimonies. So fast forward to around this time last week, there was a meetup in person. I wasn't aware of the fact that there was any kind of contingency in my particular area. The call that I was on was regional, all over the country. I noticed that, and I was like, wait, let me see where it is. I said, okay, it's not too far. And it was supposed to rain that day. And I said, all right, well, if it rains, I may not attend just because of the rain. So sure enough, guess what? Didn't rain. So I said, all right, I really don't have any excuse now. So I went on and attended, and it was great. It was a good meetup. The key thing in all this is that this was an event that was paid for and sponsored by my job. Now, I've been in IT for over 20 years. I have at no point in time been part of a Christian anything that was sponsored by my job. One of the folks that were there said that, hey, there's a New York office, but that New York office has prayer rooms. In the office, I said, you just don't know how much of a milestone that is. You can actually have a prayer call while on the job. So, just that in and of itself is, to me, is a huge testimony. It's a huge testament, to the Holy Spirit and how He can move however He wants to. And nothing is really off limits.
I find that interesting too, because it now allows you to embrace a big part of yourself while being at work. Let your hair down, let your shoes off, when you're around your people, your friends or whatever. When you're at work, you always have to carry that professional, demeanor, which is important. But you also have opportunity to be yourself, because there is only one being like you, and people at work are just like people at home, people at play. Everybody is human, and I have found more opportunity to minister and be ministered to at work as of late than before, because I wasn't looking for it. And it's just good to hear that now you have a community that is conducive to that, because you have these meetups, you have prayer rooms in the New York office, which may filter down into other offices. It shows that the leadership and those who run that organization have that type of mindset, and they condone that type of work culture, which is great. People who are watching this and hearing this, if you do have opportunity to minister at work, look to do that. And if you haven't even thought about it before, depending on where you are, look for opportunities to help other people in matters that don't even pertain to work. Because everybody don't come to work with a good attitude. Everybody don't come to work because it's a great day. They go there because they have to. But if you can be the best version of yourself in any place, you will find a lot more opportunities, a lot more doors opening, and a lot more opportunities to minister. And especially coming from and talking about life stories, big impact things that have helped you develop, help you along your journey. Because people like to hear that. People see people at the top of the pinnacles or achieving big milestones, and they wonder how they got there. The real meat and potatoes is how they overcame to get to those places. And so we're going to spend a little bit of time just talking about overcoming. People have, by this time, I don't know how old COVID is, about 3 years old, but I know you had, a pretty big bout with it. It was like a life changer, especially with the testimony that you had behind it, man. And, anybody who's dealing with sickness, illness right now, maybe even COVID itself, I want you to listen to what this brother went through, man, because it was pretty inspiring, especially to me.
Absolutely, man. COVID was in full bloom in 2021, and I had a pretty bad bout of it. Never had that feeling in my life. It just turned into a full-blown, worst sickness, worst cold of my life. had a fever over 104, and it stayed that way. Just picture that for at least maybe 2 to 3 days straight. I could not sleep for probably about 7, 8 days straight. COVID kept me up. Anytime I tried to go to sleep, it would wake me up. I know it sounds crazy, but trust me, that I could not sleep. I've been texting a good friend of both of ours, who's a doctor, just trying to get an understanding of how long the human body can take without sleeping. That was a huge concern of mine because I wasn't necessarily getting any better, and I attributed that to not being able to get rest. He was more concerned with my lungs than my sleep. Whatever that was gave him the trigger of the fact that I needed to go to the hospital. And I was like, oh, I mean, this is like day 9. Like, I'm thinking I'm more out of this than in it. I was at the point of being able to, to move and walk around, which was a very big milestone, even though I was tired. He said, you need to go to the hospital because COVID is in your lungs. Got in the ambulance. In that ambulance, they want me to keep my mask on. And I was having trouble breathing with the mask on. So I took it off and I told him, I said, hey, I can't breathe. And so he was like, no, you have to keep it on. You have to keep it on. So we were just going back and forth, back and forth. And during that time, it was more of a struggle just in going back and forth and getting aggravated. So it made it even harder to continue to just breathe. So I just closed my eyes and just focused on breathing. I just tried to take my mind, to any other place that I was other than that. Well, my mind actually went to one of the songs that I was listening to, probably on my subconscious more than I thought it was, which was Marvin Sapp's Grace and Mercy. And I replayed the chorus of Grace and Mercy over and over in my head. And I just tried to breathe according to those chords on the song. It took my mind from the frustration and it just centered my mind on focusing on breathing, because really that's all that mattered. And that just carried me the whole way to the hospital. I think I sat outside the hospital probably for another 40, 45 minutes, just because they were backed up bringing people in. During this time, I couldn't even go out of my room. They had a bathroom in the room. I couldn't go out at all. So I'm pretty much confined in my room the whole time I was there. And it's just a surreal experience.
How did that impact you, like your relationship with God?
I think it might have been probably day 3, day 4 of the diagnosis, where I just cried out to God. I just cried out to God because I didn't know the outcome at that time. I had no idea the outcome at that time. And that to me was a huge, I guess, revelation, if you will, in terms of just hearing his voice and just knowing that he was here. Just him sustaining me, because I had to, take a step back and say, okay, it's day 4. You haven't slept, but you're still here. You're texting with an actual doctor that you know. In the event that it was something that was, critical, he would have said something. So, just put that, just think about that. And so that, I know that was nothing but the Holy Spirit. So that was just, it was comforting between that, between listening to different sermons, different songs. I probably had more songs and sermons that I've listened to in that week than I did in years, or maybe even decades.
I was gonna say, it shows the power of the words that are spoken when you need them. Because like you said, your mind went to specific messages, specific songs, when you're in dire straits, man, you're going to get down to the brass tacks. You ain't going to play no games. You're going to go directly for the word that you need for uplifting and for encouragement. And then also to have support. Because even during this process, you shared this story with us while we were having our prayer call with me, you, and Darian, and you shared it, and we would have never known. And because we were praying for you during the process, because leading up there, you was asking for prayer for sleep. I know that when you have people who are praying for you, it covers a whole lot of stuff that you ain't got to deal with no more. It takes the weight off of you so much, even though you can't see it. You can't even see it like physically. But spiritually, you are relieved of so much stuff.
When you're going through something, you may think that it is something that you can't overcome. And a lot of times it's not until after you overcome it, then you realize, one, yes, you can.
Yeah.
Two, there was help with the overcoming. The COVID bout that I had, I know that it wasn't just me. It was just, healing over time. The knowing that it will get better after a while. I didn't know how long that while was. The overcoming, it can happen in a short time, and we have ones that where we go through it. If folks haven't watched the episode 9 or whatever, the one that said the impossible, that's a testimony. And just to let you know that a lot of the stuff, especially the stuff that Brad talked about, is very much out of character in terms of what he did. Just knowing him for as long as I've known him, he's not the type of person to do the things that he did. Just to let you know. And now he didn't know that I was going to say this, but it's definitely a testament to know that the Holy Spirit was moving on his life in order for him to be able to have that type of experience.
And I appreciate that being said, because I find that another powerful way to overcome any difficulty that you're dealing with, think about the person who will benefit from you getting through what you're going through. Not you, but somebody else who needs to hear that you went through what you went through. Let that be the reason why you push through. Because if it's just for ourselves, we have so much of an inclination to give up, throw in the towel, and not do, just because we're looking out for self-preservation. And that's generally how we are wired. When somebody else needs to hear something so they can get through it, I promise you, it's a little bit more rewarding than you just getting the benefit all to yourself. And it's good to hear victories. It's good to hear of people overcoming. It's good to hear people speak up about things that they may keep to themselves. And that's why this platform exists. So that people do not keep the victories, the testimonies, the times which they overcame difficulty to themselves, because the world needs to hear them. And it doesn't matter a person's status either, because everybody's human being. Everybody bleeds the same blood. Everybody's going to die one day if they live long enough. Being that the case, there's always wisdom to be gained. There's always a story to be told that you can benefit from. Definitely want to tap into those things because it makes you wiser. That's the big thing. I know that this has been a bit of an impromptu, I ain't gonna say impromptu type of episode, but it's free flowing, man. It's cavalier. It's open, and I like this type of thing. So even if you're watching and you have an interest to partake in some type of conversation like this, not only on my platform, but I got other brothers doing the same thing. And sometimes we all collaborate and jump on different platforms and do more of this so that people can benefit. Just leave me a message down in the comment section. Brent, if there's one thing that you want anybody to know about this message today, or something that you mentioned, how would you sum it up and what would you say to them?
You have to have that test in order to have that testimony. A lot of folks want to see the outcome or see the end result and not see the hard work or not see the dedication. I just happened to hear about a segment on Michael Phelps and how he worked out every day for 6 years straight. And to have that type of work ethic and dedication in order to get the outcome that he received, it takes a lot. And now, granted, maybe that was his test. My test was a little bit different, but in the end, it will be a testimony. And he has a testimony, and we have a testimony, and you have a testimony. So just know that whatever test you're going through, whether it be at the end, at the beginning, or maybe you haven't had it yet, number one, there will be a test. Just make sure that you're ready for that testimony, because somebody else may need that because they may be going through it themselves. That's my final word. I know that wasn't a word.
No. That's exactly what it was supposed to be. And I'm glad you brought it to the Olympics, because if you didn't, I surely was. Cannot count how many times where I've seen somebody win and the announcer just so happens to have the information of the difficulty that athlete had to go through to achieve the level of success that they were able to achieve just because they went through something. I heard people who lost parents, lost loved ones, overcome multiple injuries to multiple different parts of their body, yet they still persisted and they still pushed. If there's one thing that you're going to get from seeing competition on a global level like the Olympics offers, you're going to see how powerful the human spirit is and how resilience and determination can push you past any obstacle you can overcome to achieve that which may seem impossible to begin with. So I'm going to drop it off right there. Like I said, when you come to this channel, you're going to get a good word. And if you ain't hear nothing else of what was said, make sure that you always have gratitude and that you need to overcome and think about the people who will benefit from the story of your overcoming. Because just like Brent said, without the test, there is no testimony. Thank you for joining us here on B-Tones Podcast. Until next time we meet, may the Lord bless and keep you. Blessings to all y'all. Peace.